Pinocchio. Once upon a time, there was a friendly cricket named Jimmy. One night, Jimmy Cricket's travels took him to the workshop of Geppetto, an old wood carver. The workshop was an amazing place. There were ticking clocks, musical boxes, and wonderful wooden toys everywhere. A little boy puppet lay on a bench. Geppetto was putting the finishing touch to him. "Now," Geppetto said, "I have just a name for you, Pinocchio." Then he added softly, "If only you were a real boy." That evening at bedtime, Geppetto looked at a window. Twinkling off the sky was the wishing star. I wish I might have the wish I make tonight," Geppetto said. He wished for Pinocchio to become a real boy. Soon after, Geppetto, his cat Figaro, and Cleo the goldfish was fast asleep. Only Jiminy Cricket was still awake. Suddenly, a bright blue light filled the workshop. The beautiful blue fairy appeared. The fairy looked at Geppetto while he slept. "Kind Geppetto," she said gently, "you have given so much happiness to others. You deserve to have your wish come true." Waving her wands over Pinocchio, she said, "Little puppet made of pine, weak, the gift of life is thine." Suddenly, Pinocchio began to stir. "I can move," he said in amazement. "I can talk." "Prove yourself brave, truthful, and unselfish," said the Blue Fairy, "and someday you will be a real boy." Then the fairy turned to Jiminy Cricket. She said him if he would like to be Pinocchio's conscience. This would mean Jiminy would have to teach the little puppet right from wrong. Jiminy was delighted. "Remember, Pinocchio," the fairy said, "always let your conscience be your guide." And with that she disappeared. Just then, Geppetto woke up and saw Pinocchio walking and talking. At first, he thought he must be dreaming, but then he realized his wish had come true. Geppetto was so happy he began to play a merry tune for everyone to dance to. The next morning, a happy Geppetto sent Pinocchio off to school. On the way, two villains, a fox called Honest John and his friend, a cat called Gideon, spotted Pinocchio skipping along. "Look!" cried Honest John in surprise. "A puppet with no strings. We could sell him to Stromboli's puppet show and make lots of money." So Honest John and Gideon convinced the little puppet he shouldn't go to school. Becoming an actor would be much more fun. Jiminy tried to stop Pinocchio leaving with the billions, but Pinocchio was too excited to listen. That night, Pinocchio sang and danced merrily in the puppet show. The audience clapped and cheered with delight. Pinocchio was a star. However, when the little puppet asked to go home, Stromboli, the owner of the show, roared with anger. "You belong to me now," he bellowed. Then he locked Pinocchio in a cage and left him all alone and frightened. Later that evening, Jiminy Cricket crept into Stromboli's caravan. Jiminy tried to open the lock on Pinocchio's cage, but he couldn't. Pinocchio began to cry. "I should have listened to you, Jiminy," he sobbed. Suddenly, a bright light filled the room and the Blue Fairy appeared. "Pinocchio, why didn't you go to school?" she asked. The little puppet knew she should tell the truth, but he was afraid too. Instead, he said, "Two monsters with green eyes tied me up and put me in the sack." As soon as Pinocchio told the lie, his nose began to grow. The more Pinocchio lied, the longer his nose grew. until eventually there was a bird nest on the end of it. "Perhaps you haven't been telling the truth," said the Blue Fairy. "A lie keeps growing and growing until it's as plain as the nose on your face." "I'll never lie again," promised the little puppet. So the Blue Fairy gently touched Pinocchio's nose with her wand and turned it back to normal. Then she unlocked the cage and set him free. "I'll race you home, Pinocchio," cried Jimmy, and off they ran. As the little puppet raced after Jimmy, he met up the honest Joan and Gideon again. This time they persuaded Pinocchio that he was ill and needed a holiday at a wonderful place called Pleasureland. The two villains sold Pinocchio to a wicked coachman who put him on a coach full of very noisy, naughty boys. Luckily, Jimmy managed to climb onto the coach just as it drove away.